Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
And Ushalad has written something that said, my kid was in gen ed with a 1-to-1, but he was expected to perform like a neurotypical kid and he failed. He was finally moved to special class and he is 7.5. As a former teacher and as a parent of a child who was diagnosed at 3 and went through the education system, I'm really frustrated with the education system and the way they, inclusion. Listen, I'm a fan of inclusion, although I will agree that it's not perfect for everyone. But when inclusion is not done well, often it gets blamed on the child, and almost always across the board, it's they didn't know what they were doing, and that makes me want to give you a hug and give your child a hug and say he didn't fail. That classroom failed.
Yeah.
When we talk with Bonnie, we talk about least restrictive environment, LRE, which is the thing you were just talking about. Your child has a right to a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment in which they can have a floor of opportunity to access the curriculum. That does not mean that they have to perform like a neurotypical child. Right. That does not, but a lot of schools don't understand that. And if there are some things that if they do in the classroom, if they're hurting themselves or another person, then that would disqualify and say that environment is not appropriate. But being able to keep up at the pace is not a reason to take them out. It's a reason where the school has to shore up their thing. I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but I see this time and time again, and it ticks me off that schools pin it on the kid. It was not your son's fault. Dr. Grand-Pichet, what would you like to say?
No, I completely agree with you, Shannon. I'm there. I agree. I think I have actually a lot of thoughts about this, and I'm really glad Ursula wrote that in, because there are so many different situations, and this, to begin with, we have to say every child is different. That's where this starts. This is why it is so important. And honestly, it's funny because this morning, I told you earlier, Shannon, I was kind of like meditating because I was so tired and I had a headache. And I was thinking to myself, I guess the only, what am I going to do for the next 10 years of my life? Or what do I want to dedicate my time to? And it's exactly this. It's helping a parent find what is right for their child. Every child is different. And first, let's start there. Some kids actually do better in special ed, period. Like that, I will start there only because you have a fantastic special ed teacher. You'll have more aides. That's the requirement. Just like earlier we were telling Jenny, there's good ABA and bad ABA. There's also good special ed and bad special ed. Mm-hmm. And if you find that incredible special ed teacher and you feel like your child is really doing well in that environment, great. That's wonderful. That's where you need to be. But if you feel like your child is falling behind, not performing, not being asked to do anything, not attended to, not challenged, not rewarded, then you're not in the right environment. And you need to find an environment that is more appropriate, because let's face it, guys, our kids spend more time in school than at home. Like, it's hours and hours of their day. It's 7-8 hours a day. It's crazy amount of time to be in the wrong environment, right? Now, with regular ed, Shannon is absolutely right. My God, there's a thing called accommodations. And when a child is in a regular ed program, that's why I said with an aide, there's still several levels. Like, you can have a one-to-one aide the entire time just for the child. You can have a one-to-one aide in the classroom, not just for this child, but for other children as well. You can have the child in the regular ed program for 1 hour a day, 3 hours a day, certain classes. There's reverse mainstreaming. There's so many different models that make sure your child is successful. It's on the school and, of course, the IEP team, which isn't always just the school, but is part of the whole program, is what do we do for the child? And the classroom setting is one of those things. The amount of support is one of those things. The amount of accommodations is one of those things. How we deal with behavior, a behavior intervention plan is one of those things. All of that goes into identifying the appropriate school program.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because IDA is still not fully funded, what schools do is they create a program. They create a program and they go, well, we have this program and we have this program, we have this program, and they try to shove kids into each one of those programs. I just want to be the voice that reminds all of us that it's called an IEP because it's an individualized education program. And if you see that your kid doesn't fit into one of the programs that the school says, well, these are the programs that we have, that is not your kid's fault. And you can go back to them and say, my kid, make another program. Let's create another program. I can't tell you the number of times I had to do that with my son. And I dug my heels in. And then just when I would be like, oh, I'm about to cave in, Dr. Grant-Bichet, the time I remember more than anything else was when it was time for my son to go to junior high. And he had excelled in everything. And it was time to go to junior high. And the school said, oh, he had not been in special education. And they said, oh, we're going to put him into a special education encased classroom for junior high instead of switching classes. And I was like, no. And they were, pressuring. And Dr. Grant-Bichet said to me, don't let them do that to you. I think you threatened to kick me with one of your pointed shoes. And you said, don't cave into that, Shannon. We prepared him for this. He is ready. And it was life-changing. And we said to the school, nope, you got to create a new program. And they did. And 2 years later, when he graduated out of that program, they thanked us and said, you taught us that more could be done. And now they have kids going through a different program. But you know what's going to happen? Somebody else is going to come and they're going to try to shove them into the program my son had. And they're not going to fit in that. And then that mom is going to have to say, no.
Yeah.
Individualized education program. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.